Well, in this episode, we're going to talk about the old stores and trading post of what would become Rozelle Town and Hatchet Creek community. Now, if you lived in what would become Rozelle Town in the late 1700s, you would live down along the creek and down by the old mineral springs probably. And you would be part of the Muskogee Confederation, and you would be in the Pachoostahatchee tribe. The material possession that you would want more than anything else would be a flintlock rifle at that time. You'd probably be getting a horse. We're going to have a truck come by, just mess up our sound a little bit. Maybe I can cut this part out. Like I was saying, you'd want a flintlock rifle, and you would probably have a horse. Maybe not a fine horse like they had out west, but you'd have a horse, maybe a mule. And you might also want an axe, or you would want a kettle, or a hoe, or a knife, or some colorful cloth. And to get those things, you would have to kill a white-tailed deer, as many as you could, and tan the hide. The herd of deer were still plentiful, but they had already started dwindling by that time. All right, you would take your hides, and after you had them tanned and soft and subtle, you'd load them on your horse, and you would get on the Sakapatoy Trail, and you would head south down past what is Brownsville today, and you would hit the Weogufka to Hillaby Road, and that would later become the Chapman Road. And you would take a left there. You'd take a left there, and you would go not too far to Hillaby Town, a sister village. And then just outside of Hillaby Town was the Robert Grierson trading post, where you could trade your deer hides. And so Grierson, like most of those early traders, was a Scotchman. And like most of them, he had married a Native American woman, Synergy. And the word was, in some accounts, that Synergy was from down around Pensacola, Florida, and she was part Spanish. So here's Robert Grierson, late 1700s, living at Hillaby Town, married to an Indian woman with Spanish blood. Now, in addition to trading, Grierson was also a farmer. And by the time Benjamin Hawkins got there to talk to him and, talk to him about the new United States, he already had 100 slaves. And some of his children, slavery apparently in the backwoods area wasn't like it was on the big plantations. Some of his children married and had children by those slaves. Okay, and that created a family of mixed Scotch, Native American, Spanish, and African American descent. And the story of those descendants is told in this book, Black, White, and Indian, by Claudio Sant. That may be Saint. And I was real disappointed. I was excited to get this book because I wanted to know about Robert Grierson's plantation here in Clay County, what would become Clay County. But most of the book is about after they were moved to Oklahoma. Okay, so I have a couple of observations about Robert Grierson and his plantation that's located in, remember, in what's today's Clay County. This is breaking news. Alabama history will tell you that the first cotton gin in Alabama was located along the Alabama River south of Montgomery in 1802, and it was owned by an Abram Mordecai. 1802. In December of 1796, Benjamin Hawkins visited Robert Grierson's plantation and noted that Grierson had a well-made cotton gin that he had imported from Providence, Rhode Island. Now, this is 6 years before the cotton gin that they mention in the history books, and this is well documented. And so I believe that until somebody finds one earlier in Alabama, that Clay County, today's Clay County, can claim having the first cotton gin in Alabama. I think we need one of those historical markers noting that important fact. Linda Rochester, get on that. Get us one of those markers. And I guess we might as well go for a second mark. In the late 1700s, the well-educated Scotch mixed-breed trader Alexander McGillivray was the acknowledged leader of the Upper Muskogee Confederation. And to protect the Creeks and his own interests, he was playing off the Spanish to the south and the British and the new American government. He was playing them against each other to make sure that the Muskogee were protected and not overrun. Now, the War of 1812 is looming in the not too distant future. In the summer of 1790, George Washington, President of the United States, sent a spy deep into the Upper Creek Confederation to convince Alexander McGillivray to come to New York City to discuss a treaty. That spy was a Colonel Willett. Willett finally tracked McGillivray down and made first contact with him and started the first negotiations while visiting at Robert Grierson's plantation in Clay County. This is according to Willett's own diary and Alabama Historical Quarterly. I think it was a 1954. So I think that Clay County deserves another, George Washington sends spy to the Muskogees, met at Robert Grierson's plantation in Clay County. We need another historical plaque. All right, let's skip ahead 25 or 30 years to the 1830s. The U.S. has broken every agreement and treaty, including the Treaty of New York City that McGillivray signed. President Andrew Jackson is now intent on removing all the Muskogee and other tribes from their land and open it up for white settlers. With just a few Creek stragglers left in what has now become Talladega County, Alabama, and the promise of more settlers coming, John Keebler opened the first real store in the Hatchet Creek community in Brownsville area. John Keebler's store, Keebler Store. The store was strategically located at the junction of the Sockapatoy Trail, this Sockapatoy Trail, north and south, and the Weogufka to Hillaby Trail. So that's down south of Brownsville is where the first store in this area was, not trading post. Newly formed Talladega County was working to improve all these old trails and make them where wagons could travel on them and open them for wagon traffic. So the Sacapatory Trail now at this point becomes the Sacapatory Road. And some people called it the Cotton Road because the cotton from this area would go south. In June of 1833, John Keebler, first store owner, was murdered at his store by a white man, Ruffin Curtis, by a blow to the head with a broadaxe. The new Talladega County justice system found Curtis guilty of murder, and he was punished. He's guilty of murder. He's killed a store owner. His punishment, 9 months in jail. All right, during this same period, a female slave, Millie, killed a male slave, John. Millie was tried and found guilty of murder. Her punishment, she was sent back to her slave owner. She was too valuable to hang and or even in prison. So actually she got off scot-free. Now another murder in Coosa County, that resulted in the first legal hanging in Talladega County occurred when Creek Indian Puwasi Mather, or Davy, killed Henry Bell, a white man. Here's a Creek Indian killing a white man, Henry Bell, by hitting him on the top of the head with an iron wedge. He was tried on October the 10th, 1834, and hanged on Friday, December the 5th, 1834. Now, it was during this same period, you remember we talked about Alum Harjo, Crazy Fish, killing William Bull, right down the road here, right down the Sacapatory Trail. It was during this same period, and Indian killing a white man, he's hanged. So the mood of these four first early Talladega County murders gives you the idea of what's going on. And this is the lead up to the second Muskogee War, 1836 to 1837. Now, when I mentioned these inconsistencies to Robert Thrower, who was the chief historian of the Porch Band of Creek Indians and a friend of mine, he was all excited because he was working on a project and this fit right into his thesis. And so before he was able to put it together and write it up, sadly Robert got killed in a car wreck. So hopefully his notes are somewhere and somebody else can put that together. The inconsistencies of early justice out here in the wilderness in early Talladega County. I guess I should have just got on the side of the interstate to do this. Now, I'm not positive, but I suspect that the first Rozelle town store was Uncle Frank's store. And if you're interested in any of this, again, Eddie B. Rozelle's Recollections, My Folks in Fields tells all about that. My grandfather, John Rozelle, had a large general store just up the road or sidewalk there. And I've never heard of any animosity between the two brothers, both owning their own stores in such a small community. Frank eventually sold out and sold to my grandmother, who didn't want to run a store, but she just wanted the property. And he moved to Sylacauga and opened a store that became very successful, and they did real well in Sylacauga. In the 1960s, Wayman Price ran a store just south of Hatchet Creek Bridge on County Road 7. That County Road 7's right here. I hear all those cars going on. Now, the longest running store in the community was the old Goza store, the store that's behind me. That was later run by the Matthews family, and finally it was run by Pete and Myrtle White. This block building took the place of a similar sized wooden building that was just located right over here. And they were located at the junction of the Sacapatoy Road going north and south, and a road coming from Millerville through the Glades, and it forded, and later they built a bridge right down behind me down here on Hatchet Creek before the 148 bridge. There was a bridge there, and that road came right through here and went up the mountain and crossed the mountain kind of parallel to Bull's Old Road. Here comes another damn car. Okay, so this was an important junction for the Goza store, just like Keebler store was at a junction of the roads down on the south end of the county. And so I'm going to get up and show you the old Goza house that in a minute, and where the Gozas lived and the Matthews lived, and later Bert Harris lived here. And in addition to these stores, peddlers were constantly coming up and down through here, you know, selling every kind of thing from cloth to needles to maybe guns, no telling what, pots and pans. And also Eddie Rozelle tells about that gypsies every year came through here trading horses and mules. And he has a real good story about that. And when I was a kid, there were little country stores like this everywhere, down around Escambia County where I lived, and also up here in Clay County. There were stores everywhere, and they're all about gone now. D. Jackson still likes to keep one going, but and does well with it. But most of the country stores are gone. Now then you can find Dollar General. All right, if I can get up, I'll show you the old Goza house, and then we'll get to the next section, which will be on schools, churches, and cemeteries in Rozelle Town. Okay, there's Pete and Myrtle White's house, and that's the old Goza house that's been refurbished. It had a hall down the middle to start with. Okay, all right. See you later. We'll talk about the old schools and churches.